Hello, my name is Kelly Cortez, and for my final project, I will be talking about the theme of restoration throughout the three main time periods of Rome. In my presentation, I will be discussing three main monuments along with the three time periods of Rome and how each one is connected to the other. The three monuments that I will be talking about today include the Aqua Appia, the Piazza Navona, and the Fontana di Trevi. I am focusing on the theme of restoration and the creation of aqueducts and how the fountains they created have impacted culture and society in the city of Rome today. I will go through each period of time chronologically, starting with the Antiquity time period and ending with the Contemporary time period. During the Antiquity time period, I will be talking about the first aqueduct, which is called Aqua Appia. During the second time period, the Renaissance time period, I will be discussing the Piazza Navona and the fountains inside the square. And to conclude my presentation, during the Contemporary age, I will be talking about the Fontana di Trevi, which is also known as the Trevi Fountain. Now, restoration in Rome was not extremely popular during the Antiquity era because it was a formative period when the cultural essence of Rome was in its beginning stages, just beginning to unfold and expand, with a prevailing focus on cultural development rather than the focus on restoration. The sole form of restoration that was deemed significant to the Romans was the preservation of one's honor. Whether it was lost or compromised through one's actions, restoring it was extremely important. In my opinion, restoration was the most popular during the Renaissance era. This was the period of time after Rome had suffered losing most of their population, so rebuilding the city and recreating culture was very important. The pressing need to restore societal foundations led to a surge in innovative approaches, where thinkers, artists, and architects collaborated to breathe new life into the cityscape of Rome. Essentially, all types of restoration efforts transpired during this era, encompassing the reconstruction of government structures, cultural elements, as well as the refurbishment of buildings, churches, and aqueducts. Almost every emperor that ruled during the Renaissance time period believed that it was their duty to restore Rome to its former glory. They also believed that in order to do this, they needed to convert most of the population's religion to Christianity. This is when the restoration of churches was very popular. Approximately 40 churches underwent restoration in total. During the last time period I will be discussing, known as the Contemporary age, there is not as much restoration compared to the Renaissance era. The main restoration that occurred was the Aqua Virgo, which is one of Rome's aqueducts, which later turned into the Fontana di Trevi. This took place following a resurgence in Rome's population, leading to a renewed demand for fresh water. Now, let's get into the first monument that I will be talking about. The first monument I will be talking about is the Aqua Appia during the Antiquity time period. This was the first Roman aqueduct located in Rome, and it was constructed by Gaius Plautius Venox and Appius Claudius Caecus in 312 BC. The significant surge in population within Rome prompted the rulers of the city to critically reassess the prevailing water infrastructure, recognizing the imperative for a comprehensive solution. Eventually, after careful deliberation, the leaders reached the insightful conclusion that the construction of aqueducts not only addressed the pressing water needs, but also symbolized a tangible manifestation of wealth and prosperity, thereby contributing to the enhancement of the city of Rome. This particular aqueduct was built in order to satisfy the population's growing need for water. It got its water from a region in central Italy called the Sabine Hills. The Appia allowed the city of Rome to get about 73,000 cubic meters of water per day. The Aqua Appia served as the first test of Roman engineering, and as it was deemed successful, it represented the initial achievement in Roman aquatic engineering. The duct flowed for about 10 miles through the city and flowed through Porta Maggiore, which is an ancient eastern gate in Rome. Then it emptied into the Forum Boarium, which was a building used for many things, including cattle trade, political speeches, and more. Following the establishment of this aqueduct, a notable societal trend emerged, in which people began to congregate by the water sources and engage in day-long recreational activities, particularly immersing themselves in the aqueduct for leisurely baths. This established a cultural practice that became synonymous with entertainment and communal enjoyment. The Aqua Appia establishes a profound connection with the overarching theme of restoration, as its inception not only signifies the restoration of a vital water supply, but also serves as a symbolic representation of the broader restoration of government and political structures. Next, I will discuss the Renaissance era and talk about the Piazza Navona and its effect on restoration. The Piazza Navona is located in the center of Rome, close to the Pantheon, moving against the stream of the Tiber River. The square was built in the 1st century AD, or late Renaissance, in a public square on the perimeter of the ancient Domitian Stadium. It was built by Titus Vespasian, along with Lorenzo Bernini as the architect. The square originally held about 20,000 spectators, but now, in the present day, it can hold around 300,000 people. It was very common to spend a lot of time there. The centrally positioned square would unite nearly the entire city of Rome, as it was easily accessible to everyone. Your social class or profession didn't significantly affect your ability to join the community gathering in this space. The piazza was mainly used for entertainment purposes. They would flood the piazza and use it for naval battles and perform shows. To flood the piazza, the water they would use would come from the aqueducts. The focus of the piazza are the 3 beautiful fountains created during the papacy of George XIII. Now, let's dive into the 3 famous fountains that are located in the square. The first fountain I will be discussing is called the Fontana del Moro. Another popular name for this fountain is the Seashell Fountain. This fountain was sculpted by Giacomo della Porta in the 1570s and then later finished and perfected by Bernini in the 1650s. It is located in the southern end of the Piazza Navona. The fountain is made out of rose marble and the Baroque-style statue in which Bernini was known for. In this fountain, you can see a large figure of Neptune. This is what Bernini incorporated. As shown, Neptune is standing on a conch shell, wrestling a dolphin, surrounded by 4 tritons. This ultimately illustrates the Neptune's role as a god of water. The Romans held a strong affinity for Neptune, incorporating his likeness into numerous statues and fountains throughout the city. The remaining aspects of the sculpture invite interpretation regarding their symbolic significance. The second fountain I will be talking about is the Fontana del Nettuno. Another name for this fountain is the Fountain of Neptune. This fountain was also created by Giacomo della Porta in 1574. It remained unfinished for approximately 300 years until 1878, when it was decorated by Antonio della Bitta and Gregorio Zappalà. This fountain is located close to Piazza Maggiore in the public square. The base of this fountain is made out of marble, bronze, and the statues that were added are made out of a local stone. In the middle image, you'll notice 4 small angels encircling Neptune, each representing rivers like seen in the previous fountains. The represented rivers are the Ganges, the Nile, the Amazon, and the Danube. This fountain is a symbol of power of the Pope, who rules like Neptune rules over the sea. The last fountain I will be talking about in the piazza is the Fontana dei Quattro Fiumi. This fountain is also called the Fountain of the Four Rivers, and it can be found in the center of the piazza. It was designed by Bernini in 1651. The fountain is made out of travertine, marble, granite, and bronze in Baroque-style sculpting. The statues of the fountain symbolized four significant rivers of that time: the Nile River in Africa, the Danube River in Europe, the Ganges River in Asia, and the Rio de la Plata in the Americas. Each river is represented by a sculpture of a river god, as well as flora and fauna from each geographic location. The tall Egyptian obelisk sits in the middle of the fountain and stands to be about 52 feet tall. The monument was built in 81 AD, and it symbolizes the palpable power. This obelisk has originally been a part of Circus Maximus, but it was transferred to this fountain because of its beauty and importance to the empire. The Circus Maximus is an ancient structure in Rome that was a part of a complex of buildings that was created under the rule of Emperor Maximinus. This complex also was built right by the Via Appia, another aqueduct. The Piazza Navona and its fountains serve as a notable example of restoration, as Rome, experiencing an increase in urban development, began creating additional spaces for people to gather for entertainment. The creation of the Piazza Navona paved the way for the establishment of numerous similar public spaces or public squares in the city. Finally, taking place during the contemporary age, the next monument that represents reconstruction is the Fontana di Trevi. The Fontana di Trevi, also known as the Trevi Fountain, was built between 1732 to 1762. It is a very popular gathering point in Rome and has become one of the most popular tourist destinations in Italy and in the world today. The Trevi Fountain was created following the Aqua Virgo, which is one of the 11 Roman aqueducts that supplied the city of Rome its water. In 1453, the fountain was established to celebrate the restoration of the aqueduct Aqua Virgo. The fountain was designed by Nicola Salvi and completed by Giuseppe Panini in 1762. It was made out of travertine stone in the Baroque style. While creating this fountain, a big problem that challenged architects for centuries is that it was a very small space. They were having difficulty fitting all the people, and people were always fighting for more space. The fountain is connected to two palaces on either side and located at an intersection of 3 streets. This is very accessible from many directions. At the fountain, there is a section where you are able to drink the clean and fresh water. At the center of this fountain, you can see Neptune once again. Like all the other fountains that feature Neptune at the center, he represents the idea of having power over the water and being a strong leader. This fountain is a perfect example of restoration because it was established as an aqueduct, but then it was left abandoned and untouched as everyone left Rome. Because the city of Rome slowly became repopulated, the fountain was restored and began to attract tourists again. The Trevi Fountain ultimately represents the city becoming restored itself in full with culture after having a hard time. To sum my presentation up, restoration has been extremely important in Roman history. This idea is shown throughout the timeline of aqueducts and fountains. In conclusion, although the extent of restoration varied throughout different eras, its undeniable impact was still very evident and influential to Roman culture and the success of the city today. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to my presentation. I learned so much valuable information in this course that I am excited to put to use when I visit Rome one day. I hope you have a wonderful winter break and a good start to your new year.